Come on, man. I was born in the 60s, you know? There we go. How you doing, everybody? Pretty well, sir?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the WBC Talks. This is round number 38, and it's Friday, of course.
Means we've been in course for at least 38 days.
38. And 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗 and myself, we've been doing 2 shows a day, Spanish and English version. So for us, it's like 76.
Yeah, it's amazing, Victor.
𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗, she's the director of the WBC University. How are you, 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗?
Fine, Victor. I'm fine. I'm very happy that it's Friday again, and that we still in a good mood and positive about this confinement. And I'm gonna try to share a little bit of a small recommendation or a small reflection. And today we're going to talk about education and sport. Okay, education is the most powerful weapon we have to change the world. If we don't have education, then we're not going to be able to change our mind, our possibilities to change as human beings, okay? So from this crisis, we have found an opportunity and a link between sports and education that maybe in the boxing industry wasn't so clear. Okay, and we didn't talk before about education and boxing, okay? But now at the WBC, we have it clear. Mauricio, the president, has put in his mind and to his agenda a process of education, okay? And he's going to take not only the chance to educate boxers, but also trainers, referees, judges, and all the actors from the industry together. We are going to go through an educational process, okay? So in this matter, we are talking about new culture for the boxing industry that is going to lead us to innovation and knowledge, okay? Academy, education, and sport are very much related. Academic and sport follows a formal protocols and needs discipline, and this process together, education and sport, I don't know, but I have a noise that I cannot follow what I'm trying to do. Maybe if you can put your microphones off, it will help me a little bit to concentrate. I don't know who has a noise, but what I'm trying to explain to you here is that academic and sport follow formal protocols and has many help us during this pandemic to have protocols that help us to adapt. Okay, so good education and good training give us conscious that help us to manage our actions, our ideas, our efforts, our mistakes, our words, our planning. And it helps us, if we have good education, to put our work in a good process, okay? So at this moment, during this global pandemic, and in the global confinement that we are all in, put us in unequal circumstances as human beings, okay? And we all are looking for strategies to pass this moment. And the better strategies that we get if we get them through education, okay? So in these panels that we have every day, we try to learn a little bit about mental training tips. Maybe we are learning to have a better attitude, to have more strength, to be motivating, to be better to others, okay? We learn to be creative and to put our plans into action, okay? So it's important that we all learn that we need education in our lives. Even though we are in the sport area, education is very, very important. Here in Mexico, we are celebrating Teachers' Day. I asked before to the panelists if when was it celebrated? I think the 5th of May was in the US, and I'm sure all around the world, there's a special day to celebrate teachers and education. Okay, so I just want to put on the table today that we need education process and a sport, education and a sport process together, that we cannot be have them separate, because we are better human beings through educational process. I don't know if I got a little bit confused and it was a hard idea, but the main thing is to put the idea that we need to be in a constant education process. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Jill. Thank you to all the panelists today, and congratulations to all the teachers.
Congratulations to all of them, and thank you. I mean, it's true. We have to constantly be challenging our minds. We can't just focus on our athleticism, whether it's our bodies or our minds. We have to be in a constant state of moving forward, as Social said, and in a constant state of education to make a better and more quality life for all of us. I agree with you. Thank you, 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗞𝗦.
Thank you, Jill.
And now let me introduce Jill Diamond. She doesn't need any introduction because she's worldwide famous. Everybody knows you, Jill.
Everybody knows me. Sure.
Jill Diamond, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm here in New York, sticking it out with the rest of the crazies who decided not to leave and hang on to our city. And I'm blessed with good health so far, and loving my city, and feeling strong and good, and hopeful about the future. We're just going to ride this out, and the future is going to be great.
Is already changing New York?
Well, the weather is, it's lovely. The weather's lovely. They say that things on certain levels have gotten better. There's a very scary form that is now affecting children, so people are being very, very careful. And I don't feel the same kind of drama when you walk outside, the same kind of anxiety, but people are being very respectful of each other's distance. But nothing much really has changed. Not much, not really, other than like anything else, we're accustomed to the new normal.
Okay. And now let me introduce Paulie Malignaggie. So he has been all around the world also, and he has done everything. He was an amateur boxing. You were in the New York, you are from Brooklyn, so you fought in the Golden Globes.
Yes, for the New York Golden Gloves and various other national and regional tournaments as an amateur as well. And also a few fights internationally as well as an amateur.
And how is Florida doing?
In Florida, we're okay. You know, I unlike Jill, I did get away from the New York craziness, and I came down here. I have a place down here in Florida, and you know, it's been rather quiet, quaint. They're still shut down in southern Florida, but I think that they're discussing a possible reopening soon, hopefully. You know, but I also do miss going back up to New York, because in the summer I do prefer New York to Florida.
Humidity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we have Darius Fulham with us. Darius, you're in the hot Houston.
Very hot and humid.
How you been in this lockdown?
It's actually been going pretty well for me. It takes a lot of time to slow everything down. even in his life, put life on pause. I felt like I was in such a rush at the moment before the pandemic happened, but I'm just happy for health, and everybody in my family is doing amazing. And that's all I can ask for. You know, trading, it seems like the world's starting to pick back up, and everything around here is starting to open back up, gyms and restaurants and all that. So it seems like life's going back to normal. So I'm starting to go with it. My training's starting to pick up now, and I'm excited for things to come.
That's good. And now, Malignaggie is executive director from USA Boxing. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for letting us be on today.
Pleasure.
It's our pleasure. Where are you based?
I'm in Colorado Springs. USA Boxing's headquarters is here in Colorado Springs. That's where we have our offices and the Olympic Training Center that's here. So Colorado, we went in lockdown fairly early, but things are loosening up. Starting this week, we were able to have 50% of our staff to be able to come back to our office, but we've been working remotely. But like everybody else, we're very fortunate to have good health here. We've had some of our members, unfortunately, have contracted the COVID disease and have passed, and we keep them in our thoughts and prayers. But I do think as boxing at the Olympic style boxing level and professional boxing level will come out of this as a better organizations. I think sometimes you need some tragedy.
You're mute, Billy.
Yeah, I cannot hear you.
It's Mike.
Mike, you're mute.
I'll tell him. I'm in a room close to him. I'll tell him.
Okay. I can move. He has his mute on.
No, he hasn't, but we cannot hear you.
I can see the little microphone has a little red thing over it now.
Yeah,
Mike, there you go. Mike, Mike, can you speak? Nope, he's got his mute on.
You hear him now?
Still got his mute on. All right. Billy, come back, Billy. Come back. We'll get to Mike.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear
Hey,
you.
here we go.
The bad part is I can't hear you, but I do see that. Anyway, thank you all for letting us be on here. Colorado Springs, is where our training center is, and that's where we're at. As we move forward through this pandemic, I think we are going to come out better. We're very fortunate that most USA Boxing members, and we have about 48,000 members, boxers and officials, coaches. We have been healthy, but we've had some tragedy, have lost some coaches that have been around and some officials. So it has impacted us greatly, but these types of forums and Jill being able to get this set up, I do think the WBC has helped us all get through this, because it's nice to be able to talk and see each other. So we're excited to be a small part of this, and can't wait till we get Darius and our boxers back here in the training center, so they can start training full time and getting ready to finish their journey that has been delayed but not stopped.
It is sometimes weird that when we're working every day, the only thing you desire is to have a couple of weeks off. And now that we had like 2 months, what we want is to go back to work.
Exactly.
Billy is the national team head coach, Billy Walsh. I was gonna ask you, where are you? But I think you're 10 feet away from Mike.
Yes, I'm in Colorado Springs. Yeah, that's why I've been living here for the last almost 5 years now. As been honored to be brought here as head coach from Ireland. I'm another one with a funny accent here, so Victor, we're in line together. Yeah, thanks a million for having us on. You know, there's many, and Darius is one of the fighters that I feel will benefit from this break and having some extra time to prepare for the Olympic Games. He's only had a few internationals. He came onto the scene strong this year and claimed his place on the team for the Olympic qualifiers. And I think he gets this opportunity to develop a bit more to the style of Olympic style boxing, which Paulie can relate to. You know, fighting international boxing is a little bit different than fighting domestic boxing, and we're looking forward. You know, being positive about it. You know, a lot of our team are new, and this extra year will give us a better chance of being more successful.
Do you think it's going to be a harder competition now that you have more time to prepare?
I think, you know, Olympic Games is always a hard competition. You know, qualifying is probably the hard part in many ways. When you get that monkey off your back, sometimes guys will go there and perform. Getting there is difficult. You know, you get two chances to qualify. One is the Continental Championship, which is going to happen, and we're hopeful that we could host that here in Colorado. And the other qualifier is going to be in Paris. And in those opportunities, you know, you got to be right. You got to be healthy. You got to be on your best game to perform, because you're fighting the best from each nation. It's not somebody picked for you. It's actually the best from their country. You're going to be fighting every time, and you know, and it's a bit of a helter-skelter because it's 3 rounds. You don't get 10 rounds to pick them off and have a really good strategy. You got 3 rounds at 100 miles an hour, and you got to be in really good top shape to make that happen. So,
yeah, of course,
we're looking forward to it. You
know. First, I would like to ask Paulie, how important is amateur boxing? How important was for you in your life?
I think it's actually very important if you're going to become a fighter for a living, and not just as a fighter for a living, but also as a way to really be a person that can have some self-esteem and grow some confidence and whatnot. I think a boxing is the theater of the unexpected, but it brings a lot of kids and a lot of people together from different backgrounds and maybe even some troubled backgrounds and whatnot. And sometimes people turn to boxing because they think it's going to be a way where they can literally fight their way into a better life, you know, and sort of, you know, maybe it's the dead end kind of place, you know, it's the dead end kind of it's the dead end way out, so to speak. And I think you learn that even if it's the dead end way out, many times, in order to succeed, you need to learn a lot of lessons. And in order to learn those lessons, you need to start understanding that things have to be done fundamentally right. Preparation has to be done fundamentally right. Learning has to be done fundamentally right. Your attitude has to be fundamentally correct towards those things. And so before you know it, you're having a sort of a change of your fundamental thinking. And that can benefit you on a personal level, and that can benefit you as far as if you have the ability to go along with all those things, it can benefit you as far as the success you'll have as an amateur boxer. And of course, all those are the building blocks to becoming a professional boxer, if that is so your goal. But even if it's not, the fundamental learning that you will be taught in boxing and the confidence that it can bring you, I think can really set you on a path of applying those things the rest of your life and really changing your outlook towards life and changing your outlook towards your approach to anything you do in life.
Thank you, Paulie. Darius, what are you doing in this past maybe 8 weeks that you have been in Houston and maybe not training as much, but how has been that for you?
My training has changed a lot compared to being with Billy up at the training center. You know, I slowed things down a lot and started going back to the fundamentals of boxing. You know, I started boxing about in 2015, and I kind of was on the fast track to try to catch up. And so I was always in a rush. And to be honest, I skipped a lot of the fundamental stuff that a lot of people learn as they're going through the amateur program. And that's was simple, like doing simple line drills, footwork drills. I kind of skipped all that. And so now I revisited that and went back to going back to the basics, and I slowed things down. But now, like I said, recently, since things started opening back up, I recently, just picked back up the intensity of my training. We haven't sparred since, we've been on lockdown. So I haven't sparred or anything in a while, but the intensity has picked up tremendously. So finally getting back into shape. And I figured this is the best approach because I knew for sure we weren't fighting for a while. I said, let me slow it down, work on the fundamentals. It doesn't take long to get back in fighting shape, and so now I feel like it's a time where I'm going to start picking it back up because I don't know when it'll start resuming again. So let's be prepared for that when it happens.
How do you keep your mental health? I mean, how do you keep focused? How do you don't get bored or desperate? What are you doing, Darius?
Well, it's easy for me in that area because I love the sport. I love the sport so much, So a lot of my focus is on it. I mean, obviously it's frustrating because the 1 year that I made the Olympic team, everything gets canceled and postponed. So after that initial kind of shock and disappointment factor, it didn't take much to get the ball back rolling because the goal doesn't change regardless, the situation happens. The goal still stays the same. So I got to keep going forward and keep learning, keep improving on my craft to get better to what I'm trying to achieve and accomplish. So my mental attitude didn't change much at all besides the initial factor. After that, I had to refocus and get back to the game.
Victor, I have a question for Billy, because Billy, you were just in with the Irish team for so many years and doing so well, and here you come with the idea that you're going to set the Americans on fire. You're going to dream, and boom, this happened. So what are you doing during this time? How are you keeping yourself inspired and connected to all these young athletes?
Well, we actually have a call right after this one. So every week we've been in touch with them, and we've initially we were ready. And that week that the close down happened, we were ready to go to Buenos Aires for the qualifier. So everybody was ready, fit, ready to go. So we gave them 2 weeks off, and from that we've been back on some home training, individual training at home. We're due to come back here in June, and hopefully we're going to make that happen. We'll have a conversation about it after this call. But yeah, for myself, I actually took the opportunity. I've had a shoulder injury for a while from doing mitt work. Maybe a bit of old age as well, I'm not sure. But I've had a shoulder operation last week. So by the time we get everybody back here, I'll be back in full swing. Physically, then I've been out keeping myself active, walking, doing some exercise, cycling. I got to do a bit of cycling, and just keep myself in general shape. And then obviously, trying to be positive around where we're going. As I said, I always look at the positive side. When it's giving all these guys a year more experience. We're normally in Rio. The average age of our team was 19.1. We were a bunch of kids, and we did pretty well. And I think we finished in the 6th place in the medal table, and we won 3 medals, 2 medals for the first time since 2004. So we're trying to build on that. We're trying to get up to be the top team in the world again. And it's a big struggle, and it's not only one man can't do it. I think we got to get all the clubs and all the boxers and coaches in the country working on the same system that'll make us top class Olympic style boxing. Because obviously most of the focus in a lot of the gyms are on professional boxing, which is a different style of boxing at a different time, a different pace.
So I've heard that you've been wanting to do some like clinics and camps like that with private trainers and some of the people who want to become involved in this. Is that
we set up a coach education program, which hadn't been really dealt with since 1984. So we've put together a whole new program, which 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗞𝗦 is our coach coordinator, is running at the moment. We're out we started this year giving coach education classes again. And so we're trying to progress that to the next level right now because we've got so many have taken the first level. So again, the better the coach is, you train one boxer, you train one boxer. You train one coach, you can train hundreds of boxers. So that's our plan, so that we get a system within the country, not taking away the individuality of the boxers, but giving the right tools that they can deliver on a world stage.
Mike, how hard has been? You have all the arrangements for tournaments, for qualifications, and then you have to cancel everything, and you don't know when you're going to start again. We cannot hear you again.
On again, Mike.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
My computer's acting funny. It can't be operator error, I'm sure. No, it has been challenging for us. We had 3 national events that we had to cancel, our Eastern and Western qualifier and our Junior Olympics. Nationally, last year we did 1,800 boxing days in this country, from the grassroots level, the regional level, and national. So it has been a challenge, and I think it kind of goes to what Jill was talking about earlier, is just how people mentally are adjusting to this. We have great coaches in this country that dedicate hours. You know, they volunteer their time, 4 or 5 days a week, plus boxing on weekends, and all of a sudden that's taken away. And then that really impacted our coaches. From our standpoint is we're using this quote non-boxing time to do a lot of things, housekeeping, making us a better organization, working on our infrastructure. So once we do get the go ahead to start boxing, we're ready to go. We're emphasizing local boxing shows coming out slowly. Then we'll do regionally. We still have our national championships planned in December. But it has been a challenge, but we're going to be a stronger organization. Zoom meetings like this are pivotal. We've never done those before, and I think I do 3 or 4 a day now. We've done our officials clinics online, so we become more efficient, and I think it will help us. What Paulie was talking about boxing is so true. We have 13 Olympic boxers, and professionally, we may have, your top 1% of 34,000, 150 boxers that can make it to that 1% level. But helping our 34,000 other boxers that come from tough neighborhoods and learning life skills and the importance of delayed gratification, hard work, dedication. We like to say that, we're building champions in and out of the ring, because so few are freak athletes like Darius and Paulie, Billy, who was an Olympian. It's important that we also focus on the kid that comes from a tough neighborhood, maybe doesn't have a whole lot of choices in life. And we do focus on them, and it's given us time to double down and figure out how we can help those kids too. So it's been a challenge, but we haven't taken our foot off the gas. We're growing and we're looking to the future.
Paulie, how old were you when you turned pro, and why?
I started boxing late. I started boxing at 16 years old. I had my first amateur fight at 17 years old, and I turned pro at 20 years old. I turned pro. I needed money. I had a little bit. I had been thrown out of my house, my parents' house. I was living on the couch at my grandparents' house. They were old. They couldn't really, afford to have me there all the time. So I kind of knew I needed to get moving. So in order to get moving, I had to make a little bit more money. I was actually on the U.S. national team when I turned pro. I won the U.S. championships in 2001, but I was offered a pretty good contract at the time, which for me, somebody didn't come from any money at all. That for me, I took as, something that could change me for the better. And so I took it, and I turned professional in the summer of 2001. I remember they were not happy with me at USA Boxing because I was supposed to go to the qualifier for the World Championships that summer as well, because I had won the U.S. championships. But you know, I would have liked to spend more time in the amateurs had I been able to afford to, because it was, you know, I think most guys will tell you their time in the amateurs are the time they look at back as the most fond. You know, it's the time that you're fighting and you don't have much going for you, but except that little boxing career that you're kind of on the path to making for yourself, you know. And so you're so focused, you're ultra focused, and all your dreams are in front of you, they're not behind you. So they're it's a time that you're really so focused sometimes that you don't really get to enjoy it. But when I look back on, sometimes I don't just miss the competition, but I miss the feeling of being that hungry. It's weird because when you're that hungry, you don't want to be that hungry. You know, you want to be able to be there and achieve it. But the feeling of being that hungry, the feeling of being that determined, you know, when you grow out of it and you become older, you know, you go look back on the way you used to think and the way what used to drive you, motivate you, and you know, the passion that you had for something. And I think amateur boxing, in order to succeed in amateur boxing, you have to have a passion for the sport, because there is not a lot of money there for you to be passionate about being rich. It's a passion about the sport and about succeeding and about bettering yourself. And of course, that can lead to other things later on. But in those moments, that's what's driving you, is your passion. And so the feeling of that is something that I'll always remember.
Darius, do you have any intention of going pro?
I do have intention of going pro, but real quick, I want to say something about what Paulie said that I love to hear, and about what he said. You had to be very passionate about it because there's not any much money in it involved right now. And so going back to when he was saying about people may not come from the best environment, and the life lessons that this can teach you, like we're talking about like delayed gratification, where you know you're not getting anything in return right now, but you're also being taught discipline. You know, not to have the constant need for money right now. And if you can make it through it, the rewards that you can get from it is will set you up for your future. And that's why I enjoy the amateur system now, and I'm loving my time there. As for going pro, I do have plans of going pro. But you know, I'm sticking with the Olympics. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity that we're talking about, smaller than 1% of people can ever achieve. You know, like I said, I remember being like a kid, I used to think of Olympians as like superheroes, like they're like the top cream of the crop of athletes around the world. And this is a beautiful opportunity to experience something that I can share with my kids and grandkids and share with my family. So I'm just excited to be on this journey. So once this journey ends, you know, I do plan on going pro, though, to answer your question.
You start as a wrestler, and then you change to boxing. But now you're dreaming with the Olympics, and they changed 1 year. How is the feeling of that?
So you said, let me make sure. So the question you're asking is, how does it feel to finally be at this point and then it changes?
Yes.
It was, like I said, it was devastating because I would think, you know, this comes every 4 years. And out of the one opportunity that I make the team, then it gets postponed. It was heartbreaking, to be brutally honest, you know, but luckily there's too much money involved in an event like this. So luckily it's not being canceled altogether and it's just being postponed. So, you know, I'm okay. Like Billy said, it gives me a lot more time to prepare. Because I haven't been fighting on an international level. I've been focused on school. So I missed out on a lot of opportunities competing as a fighter. And so it gives me a little opportunity to train, learn the amateur style of fighting, and get a little more experience internationally before I go into that stage. So this was a blessing in disguise for me, to be honest.
Billy, we had a show with 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗, that it's a very famous Mexican trainer. He was in the Olympics in 72, 76, and I think the 80. And now he has more like 32 world champions. And he said something that caught my attention. He said, this is time for shadow boxing. He said, shadow boxing brings you to perfection, makes you sweat, gets your mind focused, and you can correct what you have been doing wrong. What do you recommend to your fighters at this moment?
Well, that's a very good analogy, because we don't need to be taking punches right now. We don't need to be at that high intensity, because there's no competition in view. And as Darius has been doing, is breaking things down and going back to the basics and the fundamentals and correcting your technique. So the best way to do that and observe that is by shadowboxing, where you don't have the threat of somebody trying to hit you at the same time. So you can get into a flow and into a rhythm where you can perfect your technique. And you can also get that up to a good intensity. As I said, you can get a good workout. So for me, for our guys boxing wise, that's where we're at. We sent them all home with 3 things to work on that we felt that would make them better athletes and better boxers. So they'll be working on those things. So when they come back in, I hope that they'll have all those wiped off and we move on to the next piece that we need to improve on. So physically, we just need to maintain where we're at, and we don't need to be getting up to a too high intensity at the moment. Shadowboxing is a perfect example of what they need to be doing, and perfecting their technique, perfecting their craft and skill levels, so that when we come out the other side, that we're ready. We're using this time as an opportunity. So we come out the other side, we're ready to take on the world.
I find it interesting that both Billy and Mike were your boxers. Billy, when you were 7, you started, and Mike, when you were 12. Do you ever miss it? I mean, ever miss it? Do you ever want
to miss it?
Yeah.
When eventually got to 32 years of age and I still boxing amateur, it was time to hang him up. I had enough. I've had in the region of like 400 fights, won 7 elite titles in Ireland, won 12 national titles overall. But so I boxed every year, and you're going to national championships finals every year. And fortunate enough, and honored to have fought in Olympic Games in '88. And continued to go. I wanted to go again. '92, I got beaten by Michael Crude, who won the gold medal in Ireland, and then made a comeback for '96. So I was beaten by this Olympic bug, and I wanted to win that gold medal, but never did. Thankfully, I suppose, as a coach, I fulfilled those dreams now with 2 nations, thankfully.
Nice. Mike, do you ever miss it?
You're not working again, Mike. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we can.
Interesting. I don't miss it in that I get to be around boxing every single day. I'm on the phone. I get to see our kids at the gym. I get to see our boxers, our coaches, and our officials. I still work out, I was at best an average boxer growing up. I always wanted to be an Olympic champion. I always wanted to be a world champion. But you have to be an incredible athlete, focused, driven, and some people just can't do that, and you can't get to that next level. I've had the opportunity to coach, which I really enjoy. So, the competition part, my prior life, I was in law enforcement, and we did charity boxing, cops against firefighters. I did that at age 40 and 45. I still got in the ring. I still like boxing as a workout, and and Paulie and everybody and Billy and any coach will ever tell you, once you box, you're just, it's a different feeling. You're in a very small fraternity of men and women that climbing through the ropes is different. And, here as an Olympic sport, people play basketball and people play football and people play football or soccer. You don't play box. And that's why we're special. Anybody that's willing to climb between the ropes and face an opponent, it's just so that's why it's just the best sport in the world. you just learn so much about yourself and about people. So I miss it, but I get to be around it every single moment of every single day. So I'm blessed.
Well, Victor and I have to ask the four of you the obvious WBC question. Pros in the Olympics. What are your feelings about pros in the Olympics? Let's start with you, Paulie.
I disagree with it. I think your time to try to qualify for the Olympics are in the amateurs. And, if you can make it, all power be to you. It's an amazing accomplishment. But if you cannot make it, then you have to also learn to move on, and the next generation of people will keep trying. Or you have the option of staying in the amateurs. The professional game is a business, and it's not to say there's no politics in the amateurs, but I think professionally the goal has to become something different. You to move up the rankings, to reach a championship level, and so on and so forth. Once you start mixing professionals in the Olympic Games, first of all, an elite amateur will beat a lot of elite professionals in a 4-round fight, because an elite professional has become accustomed to the 10 and 12 round distance, while an elite amateur is fighting at an elite level consistently at the 4-round or 5-round distance or 3-round distance. I don't even know what they are anymore, but at the short fight distance. So I think in the last Olympics, I don't even think one of the pros won any medals, and I think an ex-world champion was in there, and 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗. So I think I don't really look at it from a safety perspective. I don't think it's a problem from a safety perspective. I just think it's a problem from the come on, man, move on and get the hell out of the way perspective. Like if you're a pro, then be a pro. Focus on professional goals. If you're an amateur, you get to focus on the Olympics, you get to focus on the World Championship, you get to focus on the Pan Am Games, the European Games, whatever it is you want to focus on, and the amateurs. But there are steps and goals to achieve in each side of the spectrum. Basically, I believe it has to be a stay in your lane kind of thing. And I don't believe it's from a safety perspective, because I do believe that there are world-class amateurs that will beat even world-class professionals in a 4 or 5 round fight. And I just think it's more from a competition purity perspective, from keeping things pure and keeping these things the way they should be.
Paulie, I agree with you, but you brought up a safety perspective. I want to ask, what's your opinion on now the Olympics, we don't wear headgear. What's your opinion with no headgear in the Olympics?
My opinion on no headgear in the Olympics, I don't agree with it, not because of the punches felt, because I believe you're going to feel the punches even with the headgear. I don't believe the headgear makes that much of a difference if the gloves are small enough, and in competition gloves are smaller. But I do believe from being cut perspective, the headgear helps you, because you work so many years. You work your whole life. Honestly, the Olympics are your lifelong goal. No matter what you win in the amateurs, your goal is always the Olympics. So you work so many years, you go through so many tournaments, you mow down so many guys, beat so many people to get to this point. And then you get in the fight and you win it, and your cut is so bad that you're eliminated from the tournament after working your whole life. I just don't agree with that. If it was not for the cuts, I would not mind it. But one thing I learned when I turned professional, because when I was an amateur, there was still headgears mandatory, even at the elite level. One thing I learned when I turned professional, the amount of head clashes that happen on accident that you don't realize, because as an amateur, you're banging headgear to headgear, or sliding, not even bang, because banging you'll feel it. Sliding across each other, headgear to headgear, you don't feel it so much, but sliding across each other, skull to skull, you feel it a lot more, and it'll open up cuts. So I learned that when I turned pro. I learned that in my first 5-6 professional fights. I didn't get cut, but I was like, I felt these uncomfortable moments on the inside where, I'd feel the skull on my face, and I'd be like, man, I got to be careful I don't get cut here, So I don't think all that hard work by these amateur guys, that this elite work that they've done for so many years, should be put at risk over something that can so minimally be changed, like wearing a headgear. Because, okay, what do you want? What do you really want? What do you want? Knockouts? I don't know. What do you want? You're going to get knockouts anyway, and even with the headgear, if the gloves are small enough. The headgear is not padded enough to protect you from concussions to head blows, in my opinion, honestly. It's if the gloves are small enough, which in competition they are. But it makes a big difference in cuts. And for me, that is a big deal when it comes to a tournament where you're fighting every day or every other day, or every few days.
Mike?
I agree with Paulie, and the position of USA Boxing and our board of directors, and even our bylaws are professional boxers are not allowed to participate in USA Boxing. And it is I agree. I don't believe professional boxing should be at the Olympic Games. But again, that is our opinion. I do think they are different sports. One's Olympic style boxing and one is professional boxing. They're different. And it does go to 3 rounds, 3 minutes, as opposed to 10 rounds, 3 minutes, 12 rounds. They're just totally different. I agree too that it's not so much a safety aspect, but it's also the point that it's time to move on. And you have great athletes, and we have great alumni like Floyd Mayweather, was in the Olympic Games, and then went on to be a great professional. Paulie made that step from being a Golden Glove champion to a national champion to then a world champion. It's the proper process, and I think that's real important. And that's always been our position, and will continue to be the position of USA Boxing. And to Darius's point, and to Paulie's point, we wear headgear in this country. We believe that, if you're a professional boxer and you get a cut, yeah, you can finish out that 10 or 12 round bout, but you're not turning around and boxing less than 24 hours later. And are you getting the best boxers in a 5 or 6 day tournament if you get an accidental head clash? And you see it in professional boxing. These are the best boxers in the world that box without headgear time and time again, and they get accidental head clashes. So we believe in wearing headgear. That is our position. We think it's safer. And then once you move on to the next level, and you can compete once every month when you're first starting out, and then once a quarter, then maybe once a year, we do think that that's the natural progression. So that's the long answer to, our position is that we don't think we should have professional boxers in the Olympic Games. The 3 that didn't make it past the first round. It's a different sport.
Really?
Yeah, look, I concur with everybody. For me, the Olympic, I'm a guy who fought with headgear and without headgear, so I never really liked it, the headgear, to be honest with you. But having been in the corner with so many guys that had so much injuries with the headgear coming off, I think it's shocking, that we're not back to wearing headgear because of the intensity of the sport that we're in, and also the fact that we're over 3 rounds, okay, and then you're going to fight 5 or 6 times, 5 times to win a gold medal. So there's got to be a certain amount of element of luck. We may not always get the best boxer that are going to win these gold medals in the future. And on the amateur side and the pro side, I never agreed with the pros being in the game, in the amateur game. I think it's a step back for those guys. I think an amateur game, the Olympic style boxing, is a launching pad for your professional career. Get you into the shop window. Hopefully, if you do well, you get a good contract, and then you can launch your pro career where everybody will know you, having been on the Olympic podium. So that's again concurring with the 2 guys. That is totally my view, 100%. Professional boxing, amateur boxing is a launching pad for your professional career. It's you're serving your apprenticeship, going through the amateurs, fighting against the best in the world. I do agree, and I do urge every kid to try and go to an Olympic Games. I've been around I stayed completely amateur right through it. Never went professional. I was around for 3 Olympic Games, but yeah, it is the best and the biggest show on earth. I remember talking to our guys just before they fought in Rio. I said, what was the biggest pay-per-view? I think at the time was Pacquiao and Mayweather, and it was like 300 million was the biggest pay-per-view. So guess how many people watched the London Olympics? 3.5 billion. You will never be on a bigger stage than you will be at the Olympic Games. It is the biggest show on earth.
Wow. More inspiring. You're mute.
You have to face going back to the gyms. How is this gonna happen, Mike?
Going back to boxing, we're following 3 guiding principles. 1, the health and safety of our coaches, our boxers, and our officials. Number 2, the health and safety of our administrators and staff. And then number 3, being good citizens of helping control the spread of this. So we are working with our doctors. We're working with the United States Olympic Paralympic Committee doctors and in the CDC. We're going to take things slowly, but we're not going to be in a rush, because as being good citizens, and we don't want to get somebody exposed, then they go home and maybe they see their parents or their grandparents or a neighbor. So we're going to get back to boxing. Boxing people were resilient, and they're excited, but I think also everybody understands, let's just do this right. Take our time, be conscious, be good citizens of the world, because this isn't a battle that's going on in the United States or Mexico. It's the whole world fighting this battle. And I think, some of our greatest heroes, Muhammad Ali, boxing people are heroes, and people are watching what we're doing, from the professional level to the Olympic level to the grassroots level. And I think shows like this on WBC, and WBC being a leader, saying, let's just pump the brakes. Let's do it slow. Let's do it right. And let's be good citizens. We're going to come out on the other end of this as a world that I think be a better place.
As you said, boxing fighters are heroes. Paulie is my hero. As a boxer and as a boxing analyst, I follow him a lot. Chuck Williams says hi and says that you're doing a great job in Showtime. And
that's my guy, Chuck. Tell Chuck I said hello.
He's watching you. I think it's a good thing that they moved the Olympics one year, so you're not in a rush. You can plan, you can do it the right way. As you said, you're not in a hurry of doing this because you have to do it the right way. But Billy, what do you expect from your fighters? What do you expect to see when they are coming to the gym?
When they come back to the gym?
Yes.
Yes, when they come back to the gym, we've already, as I said, had them on a training program, which we've been upping every week. And we just want them ready to be able to train. There's no issue coming back in and going through the first couple of weeks of trying to get them fit enough so they can train. We just want to be fit enough so that we can train. And we're waiting on the announcement. It just came out just the last couple of days of when the qualification is going to be on. So it looks like our qualification will be on next February. We did sort of anticipate, and the task force were looking at having our qualifier before Christmas, but now it's been moved till February. So that gives us, again, a little bit more time to get ready. We don't need to be, and the main focus for us now will be getting our guys back up to a level of conditioning, getting them out, the likes of Darius, getting them out to an international tournament around September, October, where we can then test ourselves against the best in the world and see where come back and take stock from that and see where we're at as we head into our Olympic preparation.
How do you convince some of them who are on the cusp, who are getting older, not to go pro, but to have the patience to wait the extra few months?
I think the key for a lot of our guys are younger. We don't have that many that are too old. But if you look at, the best athletes in the world, we talk even close to, the Olympic champions that have just gone by. Lomachenko is twice an Olympic champion. Well, he was in his mid to late 20s going pro, and he's had plenty of time to do what he's done as a pro. And if you look at your own guy, the closest guy to them was on our team in Rio, Shakur Stevens. After 10 or 11, 12 fights, he's a world champion. Lomachenko, after 2 fights, fights for a world title. Your Olympic badge, or that platform of the Olympic Games, will fast track you on your professional career. Whereas you may have to fight another 10 fights to make a name for yourself. Your name is already halfway there once you've done well and won an Olympic medal. So that has been the driving force around it, you know. And for most of these kids, it's only a few short months away, you know. It's not that far away, and we're in the 5th month of the year, and you know, another 6 or 7 months we're in the qualification. So it isn't that far away. It will be worth your while to hang on for that extra piece to sample the atmosphere and to have competed and become an Olympian, and then obviously I can set you up for the future.
There is what stage are you at now? I mean, are you anxious? Are you ready? Are you gonna show in the gym like start all over, or you're in an advanced level? How do you feel?
I feel great. I'm feeling healthy, and that's the important part. I'm not saying as right now like I'm in the peak shape. I'm ready to fight right now, but I have the principles and the skills to do so a lot better than I once did. So I'm excited to go back to camp, and you know, plan on doing conditioning camp, getting us back up to speed. But like I picked up the intensity of my training a couple of days ago. So it won't take me too long to get back in peak shape where I need to be. But I'm in a good place right now. I'm ready to go. I'm looking forward to and actually this is my first is hearing about February. So it's important that now we have a goal. We now have a date, and we can start creating the plan to achieve that goal. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm in a good place right now.
And Mike, about the women, do you have any stars on the horizon?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go. I think our women, we have 5 great boxers. Billy can talk specifically about them, but I tell you what, every one of them is potentially a star. And you know, I don't want to take anything away from our men's team, but our females are a little bit older. We have some great leadership. Jenny Fuchs has been around, has experienced Olympic Games. So O'Shea is fantastic and did real well at the Pan Am Games. So he could talk about them, but all 5 of them, we have high hopes for all of them, just because female boxing in the United States has been growing, and we're looking forward to our next crop after these young ladies represent the country, which we know they're going to do great.
Great, good to hear.
Paulie, what would you recommend to an amateur fighter now that you have all the experience of amateur, pro, and even now after pro? What would you recommend to them?
As far as their amateur career, before
As far
turning
as
pro, I mean,
boxing.
I don't think turning professional without some base in the amateurs is a very smart. Number one, you're not going to be able to get a deal anyway. I think as a professional, you're kind of bound to, and will go as far as the contracts you sign, because it becomes a business. So if you're not able to sign with some connected people in this business of professional boxing, your life will be a lot harder, no matter how good of a fighter you are. And case in point is 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗, who was an Olympian and who was a super amateur in the U.S. And he signed with you know, I guess, for lack of a better word, some half-ass promoters, and he couldn't make a name for himself at first. You know, he couldn't get fights on major networks and whatnot. And now that he is able, with a bigger promoter, the cat's out of the bag with him. Everybody knows how dangerous he is. Well, whereas when he was just turning pro, when you just turn pro, only the people that you turn pro with know how dangerous you are. And by the time everybody else realizes it, you've been promoted like a star. Therefore, everybody will have to fight you anyway. So you want to do it the right way. and your connections are everything once you turn professional. And so in order to get those connections, to put yourself in the best position to grab those connections, having as good of an amateur career as possible is of utmost importance. Besides the business standpoint, even from a physical standpoint, just learning on the job in the amateurs is better than learning on the job in the pros, because you can take some losses in the amateurs. You don't have to win every tournament. You can kind of build up your resume little by little. Whereas in the pros, a few losses, especially early in your career, and you're off to the journeyman land, you know? So I think a base in the amateurs for those two reasons is very, very important. And of course, like the things I said earlier in the conversation, just about the fact that, you know, in amateur boxing, you're going to learn about fundamentals, not just of boxing, but also of life in general. And of course, the self-accountability you have. You know, I for myself was not a very responsible person before I started boxing. You know, I got myself into trouble, and I have myself to blame for that. But and the things I was going through, a lot of them were my own issues. But I think when I started boxing and I started to realize the self-accountability, because you get your ass kicked in the ring if you don't perform in the gym, if you don't do the work properly in the gym. So all of a sudden, the self-accountability was right in my face, because now I don't want to get beat up in front of everybody. I don't want to get beat up I don't want to be embarrassed. It's not just about getting beat up, it's about being embarrassed. And so you really begin to realize what self-accountability is. And that self-accountability in boxing, in sport, in life is something that teaches you that it's a lesson you need to have in all of your life. So for many, many reasons, I think you need to have some sort of an amateur career. Not everybody's going to be Olympian. Not everybody's going to be an Olympic or international champion or a national champion or even a regional Golden Glove champion. But I do think if you have your head set on a professional boxing career, you do need a base in the amateurs for those reasons.
I love what you do as a commentator analyzing fights, but why didn't you become a trainer?
I didn't become a trainer because I don't have the time to become a trainer. My plate is kind of full, and I do believe that being a trainer, you need to give 100% of yourself to these young guys, to these fighters, because you owe it to them, because they're fighting for their lives, they're fighting for their dreams and hopes and goals that they've had since they're children. So as a trainer, if you cannot give them 100%, it's just not fair to them. And I believe that as a manager, as a promoter, as a trainer. I cannot stand when guys half-ass it and they take these guys' careers into their hands, and any of those positions, be it trainer, manager, or promoter, and then they half-ass it because the guy whose career you have in your hands is not half-assing it. You know, he's got all his hopes and dreams, and the window's small, because you eventually get too old to be a fighter. You will not get too old to be a commentator or a trainer or a manager or a fighter. So, I mean, or a trainer, a manager, or a promoter. You know, but you will be too old to become a fighter. So I believe that it's imperative that everybody's giving it 100%, just like the fighters giving it 100%. And for that reason, I don't do any training of fighters, because I don't have 100% of myself to give.
Thank you.
I have a question for the trainers. Billy was talking about the trial process, the qualifying process. He was talking about there was a tournament in with South America, I believe, or maybe Colorado or something, and then in Paris. How did the qualifying process for the Olympics change since the exit of 𝗧𝗔𝗨𝗡𝗗? What is the qualifying process now? For example, how would guys arrive to qualify for the first qualifier in Colorado? I think you said you were trying to have it, or the second one in Paris. Who is eligible for those, and how do they get there? Is there, because I remember back in the days, there was the Americas qualifiers would take for North, Central, and South America, and then the European qualifiers were something different. What is the process to reach those qualifiers now, and is it regional? Is it regional based, or does everybody just go there?
Yes, you're correct, Paulie. It's very similar. The task force is taken over from 𝗧𝗓𝗡𝗏, and they've been running it. Whereas, say, last time around, we had 4 opportunities to qualify, where you had APB, if anyone remembers, was 𝗧𝗓𝗏𝗏 Professional Boxing. You had WSB, which was a semi-pro, 5-round pro. Then you had the World Championships, and then you had the Continental Championships. This time around, we've just got the Continental Championships and the World Qualifier in Paris. As I said, we were hoping to have that Continental Qualifier. It was due to be in Argentina, but we're not sure where that's going to happen. But we've already put in a bid to host it here in Colorado Springs, which we hopefully be successful with. So that is qualification for that. We had our Olympic trials in December in Lake Charles, and our guys, and not all of them won it. We brought them all out to international competition. We had them in training camps with international teams, and over a criteria of and time of a couple of months, we then selected what we felt was the best option we had at international level. So that's where we're at with the team at the moment. We've decided now, although the 2020 games have been moved, this team has already been selected for the 2020 qualifiers. So we've decided to back them and support them all the way through that. So we're looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go on the call with the team right now. And it's really been a real pleasure speaking to you guys. And Paulie, you're a legend in my eyes, and I hope to meet you in person someday. And if you never come in and have a few words with our athletes, maybe leading up to the games, and give them some inspiration, we really appreciate it.
It'll be my pleasure. Likewise, Billy. Good talking.
Thank you, guys.
Mike had said goodbye too. He had to go on the call.
Yeah, cheers.
Weird. People just disappear. It's not, you know.
I appreciate y'all's time too. That means I gotta go as well.
No,
So
I just have a little question, a quick question. Do you have a second profession that you have been putting on hold for the Olympic dream? Which is it?
Oh, so I graduated at Prairie View A&M University, and I got my nursing degree. I got that last year. I graduated May 2019, and I put boxing on hold for like my last 2 semesters to kind of buckle down and focus on school. And after I graduated, I put all my chips in and was all in on boxing, because that's something I got to do now while I'm young. You know, I did what I needed to do. I got my degree, so I do have nursing as my backup plan. Because you never know, not just in boxing, you never know what can happen in life. You know, most crazy thing can happen, and boxing may not be there for me, but I always have my brain, and I always have that profession to go back to. But in the meantime, now, like, all my chips in are on boxing and this dream I'm chasing. So, you know, and it's crazy that this happened now, like, because if it wasn't for I'd be in the middle of the pandemic now. I would be on the front lines. A lot of my people I graduated with working on the front lines, taking care of COVID patients now. And that's something I wish I could be on the front lines doing as well. But, you know, it's not feasible for me to try to manage both at the same time, perform at high levels on both, you know, because I'm risking my life, and, you know, in boxing, I'm risking patients' lives in nursing. Same thing like Paulie said, if I'm not able to give 100%, I need to give 100% of me in whatever I want to do. And so, you know, I'm choosing boxing right now.
Darius, you'll have plenty opportunity to use that craft too later in life. And it's a beautiful combination of choices, truthfully. Not only out in the field, but with your fellow athletes. I mean, you're just going to walk in with extra knowledge that they just don't have. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Are we all disappearing one from the screen like this? I mean,
no, I want to ask Paulie, Darius, if you have to go, I really want to thank you for being with us. Thank you very much.
Actually, before I leave real quick, I want to ask Paulie one more question. You know, with everything kind of returning how it is now, and it seems that they're planning on having a lot of these events with no fans at the event. How do you think that affects a lot of the fighters mentally, you know? Because now it seems like if there's no fans at all, and I missed the MMA event. I was supposed to watch it because I was kind of curious how it was going to look. But now it seems like it's glorified sparring. And you know, I've met so many people in sparring, they're legit. Like they can compete with the best of the best. But when it comes time to get into those lights, they don't thrive in those. They don't thrive in those kind of pressure environments. I'm just curious how you think that's going to change now, you know, if I don't know how long it's going to go on for, but it seems like
I think that it's actually goes both ways. Some guys they thrive more under the lights. You know, some guys perform better under the lights, and in the gym they're sort of half-assed. So I think it's a psychological issue for both type of guys to have to be able to overcome, or maybe it's an advantage to the guys that are good gym fighters. Maybe they'll feel like they're in the gym and they'll have more success now. I think it's better than not having competition at all, though. You know, I think guys need to compete both for the sake of their own thirst for winning in competition, and also for the ability to make a buck, because some of these guys, they have to make a living, and this is the way they make their living, and they need to fight. So I think it has to happen regardless. I think it comes down to this: you fight for yourself before you fight for anybody else. You fight for the love of what you do. You fight for the love of the sport, the love of succeeding, the love of feeling that rush of competition at that elite level, like no other rush can be brought to you in your life aside from when you step in that ring. And I think that has to stay with a person, with a competitor, whether there's fans or no fans, because that's self-confidence, that's self-boost. I'm the man, I'm the best fighter in the world, I'm this, those things running through your mind, they always have to stay with you, regardless if you're fighting in front of 3,000 people or in front of nobody, because it comes down to your own self-worth, your own self-pride. If people that are doing it for other reasons, for other people, for money or for other things, aside from, you're doing it, we're all doing it for those reasons. But the main reason we all do it, though, the main reason, your root of your foundation has to be the love for what you do. And if this is really what you love to do, then it's not gonna matter if you do it in front of 2 people or in front of 50,000 people.
Yeah, million.
Of course. And of course, 50,000 people is always more fun. But
it is more fun.
There's a time and place.
And more revenue.
The energy makes a difference. And when you hear the crowd screaming, ooh, it's like that plays a part of your mind. It does.
Yeah. Even when you get hit, it takes a part on your mind.
Yeah. You get hit. If you get hit and they go, ooh, you're like, you got
they know.
You got to go to work.
Yeah.
Go to work. So
Thank you,
I'm
Darius.
curious how it changes, but I appreciate y'all's time to have me on, and I appreciate y'all. And I hope y'all stay safe and y'all stay.
Good luck, Darius. Do your thing, man.
Good luck.
Rooting for you.
Thank you.
So,
I
Victor,
want to talk with Paulo.
I know how much you wanted to do a little one-on-one with Paulie on here, so I'm going to leave too.
No, you can say if you want.
Huh?
You can say.
What do you
Please say.
Okay, how can I resist?
I just want to say Paolo, that should be Italian for Paulie.
Yes.
And Spanish
Italian
is
for Paul.
Pablo.
Yes. My real name is actually Paolo, but everybody just calls me Paul or Paulie.
Hello.
Yeah. My birth certificate says Paolo. Yeah.
Mauricio is doing some dynamic with the people that is interviewing, and I really found it really interesting. The idea is to build a fighter. So I'm gonna ask you about jab, footwork, chin, defense, and you have to tell me the best fighter ever, so we can build the ideal fighter. Okay. So if I'm asking you about jab, who would be the best ever?
Best jab ever. I'll say either Mark Breland or Larry Holmes.
Larry Holmes.
Or Mark Breland, depending, I guess, what weight. I guess it depends on the weight, right? Smaller weight is Mark Breland. Larger weight is Larry Holmes.
Any weight.
Yeah.
Footwork.
Lomachenko.
Loma. Chin. Who's the best? Who can take more punches?
The best chin would be, let's see. I'd say Ray Mercer.
Ray Mercer. And he can punch too.
Yeah. Jake LaMotta is a good one too, but I'd say Ray Mercer, he was a heavyweight. He's getting hit with bigger shots.
Defense.
Defense, Floyd Mayweather.
Agree. Speed.
Speed, I'm gonna go with Meldrick Taylor.
I would say Paulie.
Meldrick Taylor.
You can pick yourself.
Yeah, no, I know. But no, I think Meldrick Taylor is the fastest fighter I saw.
Intelligence.
Part
of fighter.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be tough between Mayweather and Whitaker. I gave Mayweather defense, so I'm gonna go with. You know what? If I have to go with intelligence, I want to go with Floyd, but then I'm going to go with defense. I'm going to go with Pernell Whitaker.
I'll change that. Floyd. Heart. Who has the biggest heart?
Heart, determination, heart. I would say among the most determined fighters I've seen. I would say Arturo Gatti.
Great pick. Power.
In terms of lights out power.
And it could be someone small. I mean, everybody says Tyson, but if you remember some other.
Yeah. I'm going to say Julian Jackson.
Good pick.
And your favorite. I mean, it doesn't have to be the best, but the one that you follow, the one that you want to do the same thing in the gym. Which one?
My favorites as far as emulating, I'll say it's not just one, but let me see. Hector Camacho or Nassim Hamed.
Great. Perfect. We have a great fighter here.
Absolutely.
If you find him, let me know.
Yeah, I will, Victor. Gracias, man. Okay.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much for your time.
De nada.
We really enjoyed this, and I didn't want to do this with you because it's been amazing, and we have been receiving a lot of answers. Of course,
yeah, it's very of course, it's subjectivity based. You know, there's going to be a lot of opinions, of course.
But there's one getting the jab, who overwhelmingly gets the jab. Who's that?
Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes would be the best jab.
Yeah.
And please tag people.
I did the Spanish version with Lupe Pintor and Daniel Zaragoza a couple of hours ago. And it is obviously it's interesting because they focus on Mexican fighters too. And
yes.
And jab, and it was also Miguel Berchelt, the super feather champion.
Yeah, he's a recent modern fighter, yeah.
And they, in jab, both, the three of them said Lupe Pintor.
Pintor, wow.
Yeah, they said it has the most,
a
really precise jab. And of course, chin, Julio Cesar Chavez, power, Mike Tyson and George Foreman. So, defense, they said Mantequilla Nápoles and Miguel Canto. So
yeah.
it's a really
I'll tell you. Yeah, speaking of Hispanic fighters with good defenses, Nicolino Loche is also coming.
Oh, unbelievable!
Nicolino Loche, yeah. So you can mention him too. You know, it's hard for me to put guys ahead of Whitaker and Mayweather for defense, but Nicolino Loche, you're going for Hispanic fighters. I mean, he's probably top 5 overall defensive fighter, and maybe among the Hispanic fighters, maybe the best defensive fighter.
You cannot touch him.
Yeah, and he was doing things that fighters in the future were doing. He was doing things that guys in his time were not doing. You know, kind of rolls and bombs and weeks. You know.
You know, a category too, but it kind of goes into heart is endurance.
Yeah, 15 rounds too, especially.
And I'm amazed that nobody said in footwork, nobody says Willie Pep.
Yeah, Willie Pep too. It's a good one.
And
yeah.
Power.
I should have remembered him because he's from the same town as me in Italy too. So it's funny. but you know, it's hard.
Power. Nobody mentioned Rocky Marciano. That it's amazing for me.
Who?
Rocky
Marciano. Yeah. Of course. Yeah, it's hard, man, because again, those are so subjective based. You know, it's so subjective. You know.
Ernie Shavers. Anyone mention Ernie Shavers for Power?
Power too. Yeah, I thought about Shavers, but I went with Jackson.
When I mentioned Rocky Marciano, they said you were the only one that watched him.
Yeah. It's terrible.
I'm still
Look at Rocky's like Rodney Dangerfield. He gets no respect.
exactly.
All
Well,
right, guys,
Paulie,
good to talk to you.
I really want to thank you. It's time to close. Supposed to last 1 hour, and we're 1 hour and 20. And I want to thank you for your time and for your friendship, for always answering the phone and being there.
Absolutely, absolutely, my
It's a
pleasure.
pleasure, amigo. And Jill,
pleasure,
something to
guys.
say?
Yes, I have. Stay safe.
Yes.
Stay
Yes.
cool.
All right, for sure. And
Hey,
everybody stay sanitized.
Yeah, we will. This
Yeah.
was round number 38 of the WBC Talks with Paulie Malignaggie. Amazing guy. You have to meet him in person. He's great, and he's the best analyzing boxing. I'm always hearing what he says, and then I repeat it in my transmission. So
Even though he's in the witness protection program now with that beard, it's still Paulie. I swear.
until COVID ends, you know. Then I'll go back to shaving everything down.
Thank
gracias, Paolo. Gracias.
De nada. Okay. De nada.
Thank you very much. This was round
Ciao, ciao.
number 38.
everyone.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.